Hey y'all, it's David here, and I just got off the Foothills Trail in South Carolina, and I want to talk through my top 5 favorite and least favorite things about it. To start with, number 5 for me is going to be the support, and that really spans the Foothills Trail Conservancy, the Boy Scouts who manage a lot of the campsites and do a lot of work there, and also the state parks that the trail runs through. And some of the things I mean when I talk about support are there are blazes everywhere. You literally don't have to worry about missing a single step on the trail because of how many white blazes there are to carry you through. There were very few blowdowns, especially as remote as the trail was. I couldn't believe how well they'd get out there and clear the path. And then also between the bear cables at various campsites and just the nice benches and campsites themselves, all around I got to give the trail support an A+. And number 4 to me is going to be the crowds, or lack thereof. This was a very remote trail. Most of the time I was out there, it felt like it was just me. The only times where crowds came into factor at all would be around the popular spots like the Whitewater Falls, the Sassafras Mountain Peak, and the Lake Jocassee, Toxaway River campsite area. And even there, it was really just only a few other people, just relative to how remote the rest of the trail was. Those felt like the crowded, popular spots. But all around, no crowds at all, and that was amazing. And number 3 is water. Water is everywhere, and I mean that in a couple ways. So number 1 is water to drink, which, on a trail, especially like I went in the summer, that's a huge concern. You want to be drinking water the whole time, and water is everywhere. There was no stretch where I was worried about getting water. And again, middle of July, where some of the sources were even obviously dried up, but there was still plenty of water. I never had any concerns. And then number 2 is just from the scenery perspective, waterfalls, streams, rivers, Lake Jocassee in there. There was just so much water everywhere, and it just makes for a great trail experience. And number 2 on my list here is the trail progression. And this is something unique that I've never experienced on any trail that I've been on, where honestly on the Foothills Trail, it feels like the trail progression from Oconee to Table Rock is almost like artistically crafted experience. I'm not even joking. The way it progresses in the scenery and the views just becoming more and more epic as you go along, the way it progresses in the challenge and the difficulty of kind of easing in the beginning and just becoming more and more difficult and challenging. Just all around, the way the different scenes progress to the end really just makes for an epic finale, and I just love that. All right, and the top thing that I just love the most about the Foothills Trail was the trail itself. And I don't mean that as a cop-out, I mean that in a few ways. So, number 1, the rocks and roots were really not a concern at all. I really expected them to be, having done the Appalachian Trail in the Georgia and North Carolina areas that are comparable to the Foothills Trail area, where you felt like you had to stare at your feet the whole time to not trip over all the rocks and roots. Well, here on the Foothills Trail, that was not the case at all. So much of the path was nice and even spongy and felt good on your feet. Much less rocky or rooty, so you didn't have to worry about that. In most areas, you're able to look up, look around you, and just enjoy the environment of where you were. And then number 2 is the variety. So I couldn't believe how many lakes, rivers, streams, waterfalls there were, how many varied forests there were, from thick southern woods to jungle-like green growth around some of the waters to to kind of the higher elevation forest, to the tree tunnels that you could walk under that were an experience in and of themselves. And then also just the epic views. So Sassafras and Pinnacle Mountains were amazing. Again, with that Appalachian Trail comparison, anything comparable in the area, Sassafras Mountain and Pinnacle Mountain really took the cake, or at least compared to anything that I experienced on the Appalachian Trail there. So it was awesome. So there's the number one thing I love the most, the trail itself. All right, and I promised I'd also go through the 5 things I like the least about the Foothills Trail, and I'm going to handle this one a little bit differently. I love the trail so much. There was so little to dislike about it that I can't even go through a rank order or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of lump these together here. And I'm also thinking partially from other people's perspectives and what people may not like about it, even things that didn't quite bother me. So with this, the heat and humidity is probably going to be one of the top things anyone might dislike. I thought it was a semi-enjoyable part of the experience, other than like glasses fogging up and some of the kind of secondary implications of it. But heat and humidity is no joke on the Foothills Trail. It's something to be aware of, be prepared for, and to get through it, you're just going to have to embrace that is part of the Foothills Trail experience. Also, ticks. They were a problem. I found a number of ticks on me throughout the trail. You want to constantly be checking yourself for ticks. And that kind of leads into a number 3 here, is because of how overgrown it can be in some areas. Some areas of the trail where you literally couldn't see but a couple feet in front of you, and couldn't even use your trekking poles. You had to use them just more like blocking and slashing overgrowth out of the way, and of course that's where the ticks come from. Then the last 2 really can go either way. So one would be the lack of resupply. Of course, for myself, I didn't need any resupply, but if you're planning on going slower or intentionally making a longer experience out of it where you might need to resupply, that can be a challenge. Although, of course, there are a few road crossings throughout, so you could always stash some resupplies, or maybe work with one of the shuttle volunteers to help connect with you halfway through, something like that. You could get creative. And then lastly is going to be, and this was also one of my pros and favorite things about it, but the people. So it can, or the lack of people, I mean. So it can get kind of lonely out there. It's literally that remote that 2 of the days I was out there, I didn't see a single person. So that's something that if you really enjoy being social while hiking, you might miss the people. Hey, so there you have it. Those are my top 5 favorite things about the Foothills Trail in South Carolina, and my best attempt at 5 least favorite things about it. But again, I cannot recommend that trail enough. The Foothills Trail has to be just the most epic representation of the Blue Ridge Mountains and Appalachian region that I've experienced or heard about. And if you're interested in hiking it, I highly recommend that you do. Honestly, any time of year seems like it has its own twist to the experience to offer. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Please like the video. Feel free to subscribe and let us know if you have any questions as well. Thanks for watching. Happy hiking.